how do we actually integrate with each other? And how do you actually get access to what you need? How many of us have seen this screen? Like, how many times have you had to request access to a doc? And then when you do get that ground truth data, or that's the thing, you don't really know if you're getting ground truth data. You're getting data. Is it the most recent data? Is this our most up-to-date policy? What is the quality of the data? And so we have these blurry images. It turns into this copy of a copy of a copy situation, whereas it's not high fidelity. And so we think that we're looking at one tree, right, when we can't see the whole picture. And in fact, there's a forest. So where we are is, everyone working like individual operators, each department working on its own. And this is kind of a happy, colorful version of that, when the reality is more like fiefdoms. So it's not that far from medieval times of I have my turf, you have your turf, and data becomes like information becomes power. I'm going to keep access to mine, you have access to yours. But this is where we need to be. We need to come together and be working from some kind of shared reality. And when we have that shared reality, we're running on truth, right? Because we have the whole picture, we're sharing that whole picture. And without it, we can run into a lot of problems. So this is where Storytell comes in. So Storytell helps surface the truth of what's happening. And we do that by going from noise to signal. So there's an ingest stage of actually uploading data and then transforming it into its component parts. So it's like breaking it down, this decomposition, in order to put it back together and apply it. So pushing signal. And in terms of what that can look like, so I'm just going to show this for a second so we don't get dizzy. But in fact, I'll move to the next slide. Whoops. All right. That didn't quite show up the way I wanted. So I'll just go back here. So you can think of this mosaic that's at the Charles Schulz Museum, where like so many photographs that are, you create a new image from tons of tiny images. So mosaics are made up of tiles, and we have this Storytiles is part of our proprietary algorithm that we take your content, what you're uploading, and break it down into all these Storytiles, which is a way also to bring truth forward, because it's, you can answer the question, where is this coming from? How do I know that this chat response is accurate? And you can actually open up the Storytiles, and Jordy is going to demo that when we move over to him in just a moment. So you can see the provenance of the data and understand the source. So that is a very high level overview. And now we're going to get into the nuts and bolts. So I'm going to stop sharing, and Drodio, I will pass it over to you.
Great. Okay, well, hello, everybody. It's wonderful to be here. And we are here today to really focus on the revenue leader use case for Storytell. And so what I'm going to do is first talk a little bit about why, if you are a sales leader or a sales manager or an account executive or somebody who basically is responsible for ensuring that funds are brought into the company, why you might want to use Storytell specifically, building on what Erica was sharing. And then we will dive into some actual use cases. So I'm going to share my screen here, and let's talk about some of the problems that revenue leaders tend to have. So one problem, and I've had this myself as an account executive when I was earlier in my career, I get technical questions and I don't know the answer to those questions. I need to go find somebody in my organization that does. It makes me look bad as a seller that I don't have the answer myself. I know that if I had that answer, I could save a feedback loop. And the person who has the answer is probably very time poor because everyone is going to that person. That person is the keeper of the company's knowledge. And so there is a way with Storytell that we can put a product expert in your pocket. And we're going to talk about using SmartChat so that all of your sales engineering team's knowledge can be accessible to you. So that's a nice first example of how a salesperson can use Storytell. Then likely you are trying to understand a prospect's motivations. Why would they want to buy whatever you are selling? And likewise, it can be challenging to really understand their business. You're selling to a lot of prospects. How do you ramp up on what their business is? And so what if you could understand your prospect's business better than even they do? And we're going to show you how you can use SmartChat to do things like consume a 10Q quarterly SEC filing, a multi-100-page document, and be able to chat with that. Another thing that might be happening in your org if you're a sales leader is that the sellers never fill in the Salesforce fields for something like Medic, which if you're not a seller, you might not be familiar with it. If you are a seller, especially a B2B seller, I'm sure that you are, sometimes called MedPick or others. And that's basically the qualification criteria for getting a deal done. And so what if you always know what steps are necessary to close a deal? And SmartChat can help fill those fields in for any prospect that you're talking to. And then lastly, now that you've figured all of this out, you look to your left and Jill over there is a much more effective seller than you are. How is this happening? How is it that Jill keeps making President's Club? How do I duplicate what Jill is doing? Or if I'm the sales VP or the sales director, how can I help all of my AEs or maybe all of my AMs or maybe all of my CSMs? How can I help everyone sell as effectively as my top rep? And so similarly, we can use Storytell and SmartChat to help everyone sell as effectively as Jill is selling. So these are some of the ways that Storytell can help sellers and sales leaders. We have a fictional persona that we're going to share with you to actually dive into Storytell. And so we have created someone named Daniel Kim. Daniel doesn't actually exist. So this is a composite picture created by AI of like a RevOps manager or somebody who's in the sales organization. And he works at a fictional company called Graphite. And so we're going to walk through a few use cases specifically for Daniel. Let's start with something like this. So this is Jada. Jada is Daniel's sales engineer. And this goes back to the first use case here, the product expert in your pocket. So as you can see, everyone is around Jada because Jada has the answers. And Jada is very time poor. Everyone's always asking her to jump on sales calls or to answer a list of questions from prospects or pinging her on Slack. What if it were possible to take all the knowledge that Jada has about the product and the company and to actually be able to use Storytell to be able to chat with Jada 24/7? And so I'm going to show you how to do this. So I'm going to switch from here over to a profile that I have for Daniel. So let me just give me a second to do this. And so now I am actually in Daniel's Storytell profile. And you can also follow along if you want to go to storytell.ai. You can register yourself. So the way that you can do this is you can hit sign in, or you can just jump right in. You can scroll down and you can start chatting with Storytell right here. This is all the world's knowledge. So basically all the foundational knowledge from OpenAI or from Anthropic is here. But if you want to do what I'm doing, you can just click one of these buttons to upload knowledge. That'll have you register. And then that's going to take you to a dashboard that looks like this. And I'll just give you a very quick orientation around this dashboard. There's all my knowledge here. So this is the content manager. And you can see that there is content that we've uploaded into SmartChat. And then over here, there's the ability to actually chat with this content. And I'm going to come back to this in a second. But let me start here in the content manager, and let's just look at a piece of content here. So this is a transcript call. This was an actual call. This is all fictional data, but this is a call with Daniel, the sales person, and he was on a sales call. So this is me as Daniel. I uploaded this, and this has been tagged as a prospect call. So now there is a tag around this piece of content. I'm going to go into the SmartChat here for a second, and I'm going to look at all of the, let's say, all of the sales engineering knowledge that we have, which is a group that is made up of 2 tags. So I was just showing you one tag called prospect calls. This is a SmartChat group that is made up of 2 tags, which have all the product discovery calls and all of the product calls that Jada has been on. And so I can now chat with this content. And not only can I chat with this content, but I can also share this so that you can chat with this content. So I'm literally going to put this into our chat right now. So here is a link. I just put it in. And you can also chat with Jada as well, along with me. And again, this is fictional content. You can see that I've asked a question. How would Jada sell this? I'm going to go ahead and ask it again. I've got this pre-formulated question. What would Jada do? And here's the question. Jada is a technical subject matter expert. I want to learn from her. How would she sell this? I can modify this if I want. I'm going to go ahead and hit send. And now it is going to answer that question. So let's look. Let's see. How does Storytell answer this question about how Jada would sell the file flow product? Okay. I can see that I'm getting an answer here. And this answer is from all the calls that Jada has already been on. So Jada is not doing any additional work. She's just doing her regular job, answering people's questions. And now we're capturing that. And I can ask Jada specific questions as a seller. We can also see that there are a number of reference footnotes in here. For example, this one says 7. And if I want to understand, well, what is the actual content that's being used to answer this, I can click on this. And this will pull up a third panel, which has the story tiles. These are the little nuggets of information that come from the source content. So if I want to understand, where did this paragraph come from? I can actually zoom in and I can inspect it like this. I can also choose, I'll go ahead and close this. I can choose to show this in Markdown format. That'll show it in a little bit of a better view. I can download this as a PDF. So I've just downloaded Jada's answers. I can copy this content, and I can also say, maybe, I've got a prospect that needs a response. Please compose a response on how to use file flow from Jada's expertise in her voice as an email that I can send to my prospect. So I can just converse with Storytell and get the things that I need. So here it is. Here is the answer as Jada, what Jada would say. And then I can say, hey, Jada, does this look right? I just wrote this based on everything that you know. Let me know if it looks okay to send. Okay, so that's the first use case that we wanted to share. And if you have any thoughts or questions, feel free to go ahead and ask them in chat, or you can use the Q&A, and we'll be happy to address those as we are sharing these. I'm going to go to the next use case here. So the next use case is, how do I know how to close this deal? What are the next steps? What are the specific MEDDIC next steps that I should be putting into Salesforce, or that I would like to have be put into Salesforce for me? So maybe this is Daniel's boss, and Daniel maybe wasn't filling Salesforce out, and Daniel's boss wants to chat with Daniel's content. So let's try this one here. So I'm going to go into my SmartChat platform as Daniel. So now I'm back here. And now I can see from all of my prospect calls, I'm going to be able to chat with just these calls now. So now I can ask a question like this. Medic. We're going to use Medic to answer these questions. And so here, I'm going to say, I want to do this in my prospect calls. And I want to get a table. And so this is for one customer, Video Vision Productions, and it's telling me the Medic criterias and the specific pain points, for example, the competition. Here's the next one, Tech Innovators, Inc. Decision criteria. I'm getting all the answers here that I need from Storytell. So that's the next use case. I see that there's a question here from Luis. So let's answer this live. Luis, you said, is the text the only output format? Are there other features like images, maps, etc.? It's a really great question. Today, the answer is it is largely text-based. We can do a little bit of graphical response work. It's not built for that yet, but that is absolutely coming. And it's a big part of the way that we want Storytell to be effectively a companion to you as a knowledge worker, or in this case, me, Daniel, the seller, to be able to output things like, I want to get a set of slides built for me that have this information, or I want to see this as a flowchart or as an infographic or things like that. So I think that answers your question. Maybe, Luis, if it doesn't, if you want to, we can unmute you as well to ask in more detail, or you can let us know if it did.
Hi, Daniel. Yeah, it actually answers my question. But I guess I'm thinking more from my perspective. I'm a UX designer, and I'm thinking of, this tool will be really useful for me to actually condense all data from research. And actually, if the tool is able to provide me a journey map or a persona or something like that, that is more than text, that'll be awesome. But I guess your answer was pretty clear and really kind of amazed from what the tool can do. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a wonderful question. Thank you for the question, because it is a big part of our product roadmap. And I think being able to understand a little bit more about how you would like that to work as a user would be really valuable and helpful for us. So maybe we could continue this conversation to further understand those requirements, because I think building in a way that isn't just text but allows for different learning styles, that's going to be a big part of the value that Storytell can provide.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Other thoughts, questions from anybody? I see that there might be another one here. Okay, I think that was actually just Angela. Thank you, Angela, for sharing that. So there's one last use case that I want to share with you, which is the one that I mentioned about wanting to be able to understand what is going on with this prospect. How can I understand this prospect better than they know their own business? And so that's this one here. What if, as a seller, I could really quickly consume a lot of information about a company to be able to walk in with a lot of knowledge? And so what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to show you the Storytell Chrome extension. Now, the Storytell Chrome extension is something that you can download at this link here. So I'm just going to drop this in. So you can grab the Storytell Chrome extension here. Now, we've been using a fictional company, but obviously a fictional company isn't going to have a 10K report. But I'm on the Apple page here, and I'm just grabbing. You can see that Apple has a 10K report as a PDF, as an Excel file, as an HTML document. And on the right side is the Chrome extension. And the Chrome extension, you can open it, you can close it. If you have it closed, it's not going to be pulling in any content. If you have it open, it will be pulling content. So you just need to know about that. But what we can do is we can grab the Apple 10K and we can start to analyze it with Storytell. And so I'm going to do that now. Let me grab it really quickly here. So we can see here that this is the HTML version of it. And on the right side, we can see that it's starting to split the content into story tiles. So I literally just have the Chrome extension running. Now, that's not the only way for me to be able to load this into Storytell. That's a very simple way for me to do it, but not the only one. So if I want to, I can also download the PDF. And so over here, we can see that I have the PDF. And then I can go over to the Storytell dashboard and I can say upload knowledge. And I can say that I want to download this PDF, which is right here. So I'm going to go ahead and upload it. And while this is uploading, I'm also going to look at the way that I am grabbing it from here. And so we can see that this has already processed. So I didn't actually have to upload the PDF because I was able to get it right from the web page. This is the Storytell Chrome extension. I'm getting a summary here, which is great. I can also chat with it. So give me the summary in a blog post format, right? I can ask questions here. So there's a blog post summary, but the power of it comes from the fact that now that I've ingested the 10K, I can go back here and I can see that the content is going to live here. And I might need another minute for it to upload. It's actually not showing here, so I apologize. I'll have to see why it didn't show up because usually it would be showing right here. Let me just refresh this page one more time. So, I know why it didn't show up actually. It didn't show up because I'm logged into the Chrome extension as a different user. I'm logged into the Chrome extension as the demo user from last week's webinar. So I apologize for that. I would have to have re-logged in as this week's user, Daniel. So since I'm not able to suck it in through the Chrome extension, you wouldn't have that problem because you're not doing a bunch of different demo personas. Since that's not going to work, I can just upload it here. And so it's going to upload here. I can minimize it as I am doing other things. We can see that it's uploading right down here. And so now I can go do other things while I'm also uploading that 10K. And then I can do the same thing here. I can SmartChat with it. But not only that one 10K, I can SmartChat with many pieces of content about this company to learn more about them. So let me actually pause there. I'm going to hand it back to Erica. I've got another call that I need to drop off for, so I won't be able to answer more questions, but Erica absolutely can. Is there anything, Erica, before I drop off that you'd like me to share?
We don't have that call anymore.
Great. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so Shamshad, Luis, everyone's hang out with us.
Yeah. Good. Okay. So Erica, from what I shared, is there anything specific, or Angela, is there anything else specific that you would like me to share while we're uploading this 10K from Apple?
I think for me, I really want to know about the use cases that everyone who joined is interested in. Like this Q&A space can be very open. So if you do RevOps related work, awesome. And if you don't, also great. There's so many use cases for Storytell. So would just really love to hear from you all, Shamshad, Luis. What is the problem that you're facing that you're hoping Storytell or really any AI could solve for you? Luis has
I have a specific question because this is something that I experienced in my day-to-day work. So what I normally do, what I've normally been doing is I use a lot of tools like ChatGPT or Bard to summarize my research data, but it's something that we have to do manually, or I do manually. So for example, if in my team the researchers gave me a lot of interview notes, or I download that from other AI, that is another tool, um, I would normally will break that down into pieces, feed that into ChatGPT and ask it about bullets, insights about all the things that I'm seeing that Storytell AI is doing by itself. So I'm really kind of interested in that uh, feature itself, because that's a problem that I have experienced. Of course, it takes less time than doing like all the summarized by myself, but doing it with tools like regular, you know, uh, ChatGPT, it's more tedious and takes more time. So I'm really seeing a potential here that will solve my problem, specifically when I want to share all this summary and insight with my teammates, which connect with the other one, that is when I have all the data, I have to like create a file, create a presentation to share that with the team. But with the feature that you just show about, sharing a link to the
Mhm.
chat, I just can tell my team members like, if you have any questions about the research, ask this,
Mhm.
chat of the, yeah, that's pretty simple. So stakeholders or visual designers or CX or strategies, anyone could be able to access my research or my information or my findings with that. So for me, that's like a problem solver. And I have been using the Chrome extension for a while, but I haven't like used it deeply like you just showed. So thank you for that, because now I know, exactly how I can use it.
That's great. And I'll show you, to your point, I'll show you what you could do with something like, one document or a number of documents, like you're mentioning, with the 10K that I just uploaded. So here's the 10K that we were just talking about. And I made a tag called Apple Research. Let's say that I'm a seller that's looking to learn more about a prospect, and the prospect is Apple. I could add more tags to this document. So each tag, think of it as like a dynamic data container that scopes the conversation. I could also add more documents to this tag. So maybe I want to go on Apple's website and learn about all their products and use the Chrome extension to suck in 100 things, which sounds more, Luis, like what you're talking about. You got a number of pieces of content. And then I can chat with just that piece of content. And Luis, to your point, I can literally share this SmartChat with you right now on this call like I did earlier, but now it's just for the Apple content. So now if I go to this page as a non-logged in user like you might do, all I'm going to see is the Apple content, and I can SmartChat just with that. At least we should. Let me see if maybe 1 second here, because I'm not seeing it. So I'm just going to grab this URL and try that. And let's see if that gives us what we expect. Oh, I think I might know why. Maybe I made the content non-public. No, I did. I made it public. So I'm not actually sure why I'm not seeing the Apple content when I do that. And maybe Luis or anybody, if you try clicking on the link that I put in chat, are you seeing the Apple content? Because you should be. Let me just try one.
No, I see just the same one that you just showed, the empty page with all my knowledge.
Try again. I might have shared the wrong link. So here it is. Let me put it back in chat. It's going to be empty when there isn't any public content. So I don't know if this link is different than the one that I shared earlier. Let me just try this again. Share SmartChat, copy. But any of these last two that I've put in should work. I just want to try this one specifically. It's here. Good. So now I can chat with just this piece of content. So Luis, you can imagine if you had 10 pieces of content here, they would be showing, and you could share it with people to chat, and they could ask whatever questions they have here. And that sounds like the use case that you are saying that you would use this for. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's absolutely accurate.
Cool. Yeah, I would love to have you try it. I'll also give you a pro tip. which is that if you put staging.storytell.ai, so just staging dot, that will give you our staging server, which is not as stable, but gives you all the newest features. I'll drop that into the chat here. So you can drop staging dot in and you'll see that it's a little bit of a different view. That type of thing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, what else do we have here? Anyone else?
Yeah, if it's okay, I can start with my questions, and feel free to kind of tell me that, hey, this will require a kind of different discussion, and I'll be more than happy to take it offline.
We're here for you.
Oh, thank you, sir. So we have a general use case where we are uploading, let's say, documents that are personal to me, and I am kind of going to search through for the contents. For example, my loan documents, my property documents, my employment contracts, etc. And nobody else is involved, right? So I know that I'm keeping it to myself. There may be documents that are kind of, let's say, generally available to public, right, and are used at work, right? For example, the example document, the Sec 10 document that you picked up, or any other health policy related documents, or in any of those HIPAA documents that we all need to collectively analyze in the light of, let's say, other contracts that we may have signed. But at the same time, there will be a situation where we want to make sure that, hey, we are uploading different kind of, let's say, bids or RFPs that we have received from different let's say vendors, and we don't want everybody to know everything, and so we want to maintain a certain level of segregation, certain level of privacy in analyzing those documents. And so I'm not sure that in the scheme of things how Storytell, or I would say that this problem may not be specific to Storytell. This may apply to any other similar solution or similar product, or maybe to the LLM in general, right? That how do I make sure that I can have some kind of role-based access control? That's what I was referring to in my question, RBAC, where let's say I can define the categories, right? Let's say Rodio and Erica can access all the documents, but Shamshad can only see these 3 documents, right? Or can get response only from these 3 documents.
No, that's a phenomenal question. Thank you for that. And I'll share with you what exists today, and then I'll also share a little bit of the product roadmap around what's coming. So in terms of what exists today, you can see that I just permissioned 2 pieces of content differently than the others. So there's 3 levels of visibility right now. There's anyone with the link, only my org, or just me. That's what exists today. Only my org is anybody with the same email domain. Outside of the common ones like Gmail, we discount those. But if you log in with a work email and you say things are only my org, then only people in your company will have access to it. Conversely, if you say that something is just me, then nobody outside of you will have access to it. So like for your loan documents, you would want to permission those as just me. That will allow you to chat with them without anybody else being able to. I'll show you what this looks like. So I've made this just me. I'm going to say chat with this content, and I'm going to take this link and I'm going to just go into incognito mode, and I'm going to see what shows up, and we can see that it's blank. There's nothing here, right? The content is not showing. Now, conversely, I'm going to take another piece of content. So let's go back here. Let's go to a piece of content that's permissioned publicly, like the Apple one. And when I go to chat with this content, and I just open this link in incognito view, it should let me chat with it. So right now we're permissioning all the content, or our entire permissioning structure is content-based. We're not doing anything that's like RBAC specifically to users outside of the org-wide. What's coming in our product roadmap is the ability to invite people to think of this as like a project space. So not just the SmartChat company space, but I want to make a project, and I want to invite, my spouse or my colleague, or, maybe somebody from my company, or maybe not. And I can invite specific people in to SmartChat with that container. So I guess I would be curious to know, based on how we've approached it today, does that solve for your immediate use case? And what do you think about the way that we're thinking about building out the permissioning over time?
Yeah, actually, I mean, gives me an idea that yes, it is possible, right? But no, it does not solve as far as the overall use case is concerned. I mean, it needs to be a lot more granular than just, let's say segregating on the basis of domain name or just on the basis of, let's say, department or division name. Like, for example, engineering versus product management versus, HR versus finance versus legal, right? I'm sure that you have used, Salesforce, CRM applications, you use ERP applications, you have used, legal and finance applications, that they keep their data very segregated, not just in terms of that the fact that underlying, database or tables or, the top layer applications are different, but also those who can access, right? They have to go through a certain process, right, to gain that access, right, to that kind of data. And given that this whole chat mechanism, this whole prompt mechanism is going to be now the front end for, I would say, by and large, all the applications, those that are kind of available in public domain, like let's say, Amazon shopping website, or internal, applications that you use for, payroll, for HR, for any other, similar purposes, right? How would we go about implementing that kind of role-based access control, that's kind of segregation in terms of accessing the underlying data and documents?
Yep. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and totally understand and agree with you around enterprise environments and being able to have the RBAC functionality for workflows and processes and security and all of those things. We have chosen to date to do it all at the content level because that has felt like the most consistent plane to do it. We actually originally had permissioning at the SmartChat level. And it got confusing and complicated when there were conflicts between the two. So for simplicity, we just went back to saying, let's just start at the content level so people can permission their content. And let's think through the way that we want them to then build from there. And we're thinking about it from this like project space perspective. I think I'd love to learn more from you about what you would like to see. If you're up for doing a call, let me put my calendar here. So feel free to grab time. I'm going to just drop it in chat. Anytime that works for you. And maybe I can understand a little bit more specifically the way that you would like this to work as we build it. Rob, also to your point, we have thought about making it even more kind of like atomic unit as story tiles, because story tiles is when we break the long form content up into its concepts, right? So we've thought about even dropping it down to that level so that even within an hour-long Zoom call, there might be parts of that hour-long Zoom call that everyone can see, the public can see. And there might be parts that only you want to see. And story tiles would be the way to do that. To your point, Rob, that would get complicated, which is why we haven't done it, because it's a lot to manage. And how do we make sure that a human doesn't get overwhelmed by that? But that is kind of an intriguing thing. When I'm on a call, I sometimes want to share a lot of it with the world. Like, this is the learning that's happening on this call. But there was that 1 minute where I was showing some sensitive financials, and I don't want that to go out. So we're thinking through things like that.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think that will definitely require a great deal of work for sure. And I know that we're only scratching the surface at the moment. It's pretty enticing. You can see the potential. You can also see the speed at which you can get the results back. Like if I were to just load all my Jira tickets or my Confluence documents, I'll get a great response. And if I can segregate them by let's say some like tags or some code, that'll be awesome. But when I talk about rolling it out at an enterprise level, you cannot go with an all or nothing model, right? You have to have something that works for each of those scenarios. So, anyways,
I would love to dig deeper into this. Please schedule some time. It'd be a phenomenal conversation to have. And I think also, to your point, I would recommend you could make everything just me right now, and then you could just copy the output so that you are still able to share within the organization some of what's coming from Storytell, but you're restricting access to just you. So that's probably the safest place to start. And then for maybe some of the content, you can make it org-wide as well. Yeah.
I was thinking exactly along those lines as in something interim. Yeah, thank you.
You bet.
Back to you.
Hey, Gerodio, we also have a comment here from Rob Foster about please complete this RFP for me as a powerful use case, and so much time goes into the RFP response.
Doesn't it though? Yes, totally agree. And there's a few like really exciting things that I'd like to to share about that specific use case in terms of ways that Storytell may be able to help with that even now. We haven't built specifically for that. I'm going to try something live here. Let's see how it goes. One first thing that I want to share is a little bit about how Storytell can structure, can work with both structured and unstructured data. Some of the most powerful use cases we're seeing are where people are taking CSVs and they are loading CSVs into Storytell right alongside 100-page PowerPoint decks and saying, hey, I want to take all of this structured and unstructured data, and I want you to like answer an RFP, for example. The thing to understand about CSVs, I'm going to put this into chat here, is that large language models like Storytells have a very hard time working with CSVs because the content tends to live far away from the labels. And we'll have this load here. Let's say that I wanted to ask about this number. Well, what lives next to this number are just lots of other numbers. And the large language model doesn't have a good way to understand that this number is from November 2021, and it's from this company, Tech Analytics. And so because of that, and soon we'll be doing this for you, you won't have to do it. But because of that, there's a really easy fix, which is to convert your CSV into an XML file. And you can see what happens when you do that is that we wrap the label with the number. So now the large language model can understand, oh, this was November 2021, and it was for this company. And so there's a great tool, onlinecsvtools.com. You literally just drop in a CSV. It'll give you back an XML. It doesn't take long at all. But the things that enables now are for you to start querying your content, both with structured and unstructured content for things like RFPs. Now, I'm going to try something. Again, I'm in a demo account that has, some amount of content here. It doesn't have a ton of content, but let's try using the question library. And so the question library, this is brand new. First, let me just tell you what it is. You can turn it on and off right here. And you can see that there are some questions that I've already pinned here that I was mentioning earlier, like what would Jada do? I can hit view all, and I can see all of the questions that we've loaded in here. I can also see my pinned questions. I can also create a question. And so let's imagine that we want to create a question, and let's call that create an RFP for me. Now, I'd say it's pretty likely that Storytell will know what an RFP is. Let's just define it a little bit more. So we can say create a request for proposal RFP for me from this content. Put details in about how I can solve for the following issue. And then I'm going to leave that blank, right? And the reason I'm going to leave that blank here is because I'm going to add this to my question library, but then every time I use it, I'm going to put something in here. Also, while I'm in here, I just want to mention, we can actually send an email or a webhook, like a Slack message, every time new content is added to this tag. So if, not only can you make a question here, but you can automate pushing things out like into Slack. I'm not going to demo that here. But so now I'm going to save this question. Now I've got this question here. Oh, and I need to choose a tag. So I'm going to choose all of my tags, let's just say. Okay. So I'm going to add, and actually, just check one thing here. I'm actually just going to uncheck automatic sharing because that's, I think, outside the scope of this specific webinar. So now I've got this here. I can also pin it, so it's going to show up at the top. And now I'm in all my knowledge. So I'm not in a specific SmartChat tag. I'm going to say, create an RFP for me. That's going to put it in here. And I'm going to say, like, what is the, company need? Maybe, I need to transfer lots of data quickly. I'll say the need. So let's just go with this and see what happens. I don't know if Storytell is going to know what an RFP structure looks like? I'll be curious. Well, looks like it does. And so while it's doing this, Rob, I don't know if we can unmute you or you can unmute yourself, but I'd love to know what you think about this.
Yeah, I think this is really cool, and that it knows or has a sense of the structure of an RFP is great. So thank you for going through that. The use case where I have poured blood, sweat, and tears in is where I was responding to an RFP. And some customer or prospect said, hey, we want XYZ. We've created all these bizarre metrics and requirements and all these text fields you need to fill in on company history and all of that. And every time I've done that, the first question is, well, what did we say last time? And no one ever knows what we said last time, nor do they know if it's still valid. But having that ability to pull the old stuff, to maybe navigate across, the latest product roadmap or marketing communication or whatever, would be pretty powerful to then fill, almost as if the RFP you receive is a form, almost fill it in like a form.
Yeah. And I actually want to try doing something which I may or may not be able to do this quickly. I'm just literally looking online for a sample RFP. And let's see if we can find one. This is maybe like the state of Connecticut. So here's something that, may or may not work. I'm going to go ahead and download this. Right. So I'm going to download this RFP. And as we can see, it's a long document. I could also open the Chrome extension to understand it. Right. So I think the first thing is, before we even talk about, can Storytell help me answer? It's like, oh, this is a 21-page RFP. Can I just ask it some questions right from here? And so, yes, you can do that to try to understand, what is it that they're even trying to, get proposals around. So that's the first thing. But now that I've downloaded it, let me go into my Knowledge Content Manager here, and I'm going to upload knowledge. I'm going to upload this RFP that I just downloaded here. And so now I can make a tag around this, and I can call this Connecticut RFP. So what I'm doing is I'm scoping this to a SmartChat container. And now we'll let this run, but I'll just explain what I'm going to do next. Once this is uploaded, I'm going to reference this container along with all of the other things. So I'm going to say, as per this SmartChat container, can you answer it? We haven't built Storytell to do exactly this, but this is coming up a lot. This is very high on our product roadmap, which is like, based on this one scoping document, use all the knowledge in Storytell and apply it towards that scoping document. This is a great example of that. Another one would be, I have a job description. I want to load 100 resumes into Storytell. Which resume is best for this job description, right? It's a very similar, I've got one scoping document. I want to take all the content from Storytell. So we're working on solving for that. But this approach, we've had pretty good success with it. So let's just see what happens here. So now I've got the document, I've got Connecticut RFP. I'm going to go back to my SmartChat interface, and I'm going to say, I want to chat with the Connecticut RFP, as well as, let's say, the product document. So this is, and Jill, Jill, I think Jill, we meant to say Jada here. So let's say that Jill is the seller. So maybe, I think we had Jada's content maybe was here. Let's just say that this is the scope of the SmartChat that I'd like to make. So now let's say, please answer the Connecticut RFP based on the file flow product capabilities. Detail as many RFP, provide answers to as many RFP requirements as possible with detailed summaries for each. And I'll say, return the results in table format with the requirement in column 1 and the capability in column 2 and more detail as bullet points in column 3. Let's just try that, see what happens. And Rob, I think this is what you're looking for. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And what I'm imagining, again, years of my life have been wasted on these things. Maybe some of the content you would add also would be previous RFP responses talking about, minority ownership of the company or the history of the company or the value of the product or whatever. There's just a whole bunch of boilerplate stuff that goes into this, as well as like the insightful stuff that you're trying to cull right now.
Yeah. So I have no idea what's in that RFP, so I can't tell you if this is right or not. It might be. It would be interesting to find out. It's still going. But what I can say is that regardless of how well this is actually answering it today, that scoping approach is something very high on our product roadmap. And I think we're really going to be able to nail that within the next couple of, let's say, months. And I'd love if you or anybody tries this to let us know how well it works for you, because it looks like it might actually be giving some great answers here.
Yeah. I mean, that seems super cool. And an RFP is just one example where, the need to respond to it forces you to cross all the silos in your organization on an urgent basis with like this information keeps changing.
Totally.
So yeah, something like, and I'm sure there's other examples like that, but that's very cool.
It's a great use case. It's a really great use case. And the way that we're building Storytell is exactly to solve for things like this. Siloed knowledge inside the org, being able to bring that all into one place, turn it into story tiles where we score affinity between all the story tiles, return back the right information for things like those RFP points, be able to use all our past RFP responses in as data, source data for these answers. Let somebody who maybe isn't even the person who usually writes the RFPs do it, for example. So yeah, it's an exciting use case. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, may I just chime in here that I've seen this in action and use at one of the companies that I work for while implementing enterprise contract lifecycle management and corresponding repository management, where you'll have all such legal contracts in one place. And we had to build an additional layer to make sure that as we upload these contracts into that repository, we maintain a reference to all the clause and articles there, so that we can compare that any customization, any changes, any amendments that were made to those clause, not just in terms of like text, in terms of legal details, but also in terms of any amounts, wherever it was kind of associated, in terms of penalty, in terms of timeline, etc. So this indeed is a great use case, and I think this tool, a tool like this can solve it much better than I think what we had implemented back then. It was still very time consuming. One had to kind of go in there and run few queries, and I think now that all of that should be doable via a few prompts.
That's great. I would love to better understand again at more depth what's working well and where we should make investments on our product roadmap. So again, I'll drop my my calendar link here, and if anybody who's on wants to grab some time, we're here to build for you. So it's great that it seems like we're at a good, valuable starting point even now, and I'm excited to see what this looks like in a couple months. Okay, any other questions? We're over time, but also there's nothing more valuable to us than this. So Eric, I don't know if you want to move into any sort of retro, or if you want to keep the floor open. It's up to you.
Yeah, I think we have a real culture of learning. It's one of our values at Storytell, that we're a learning organization. So please fill out the feedback form. Angela, could you drop that again? Or just, you can share observations, what would make this more valuable for you, so that we can just keep improving these as we go. And thanks so much for attending and for your questions and your interests. Like, that's what keeps a startup alive and changing. Great question, Rob. Is there a place that folks can go into the Storytell website to drop other RevOps use cases and problems? There sure is. I will grab that right now.
And while you're grabbing it, Erica, I'll be happy to share this the link that you're probably going to share here, which is around a number of different use cases. And we've got, just to zoom in on this, we've got some examples of using Storytell as an executive, recruiting in HR, knowledge workers, product managers, VC and corp dev, law and contract. I don't think we've made one yet for like revenue leaders, so we absolutely will. If we haven't, which it looks like maybe we have not, but you know, we're basically putting specific examples of how we're using Storytell into each of these. So I think that answers the question. And Erica, is there anything else here that you'd like me to share while I'm showing my screen around that?
No, that's it. Okay, that looks like the thumbs up from you, Rob. I love the ghosty zoom thumbs up that just keeps scrolling up the screen. Yeah, any other questions or comments or observations? All right, thanks, Shamshad. Great to have you here.
And we'd love to know what's valuable for you. I think this is what literally our third or fourth webinar we've ever done as a company. So do you want more like office hours and labs where we can be hands-on with you using Storytell? Do you want more specific webinar focuses and topics? And we're absolutely listening. We're here to build for you. So let us know whether it's through that form or grabbing some time, or you can email me. I'll just put my email here as well. But love to hear from you. And thank you, Angela, for putting this together today.
Yeah, thank you everyone for coming.
Take care. Ciao.